Reality TV is never as real as it seems, and RuPaul's Drag Race, for all of its high points, is at its core reality TV. It may have started in the very early seasons as a drag queen competition show meant to focus on the talents of incredible queer performers, maybe in the same way that Project Runway wanted to focus on fashion and Top Model was meant to focus on models, and even some of these Food Network shows were meant to showcase the talents of chefs across America. But over time, these shows degrade their quality and eventually succumb to the reality TV machine. And if there's one thing that reality TV is constantly craving, it's a formula. And Drag Race is very good at following a formula and a rubric. And to get to the end of the show, they always retain the same types of television tropes in their cast rotation so that they can provide an easy to digest package to their audience. See, if they break too much from the formula, that creates dissonance from what audiences are normally used to. TV likes to regurgitate the same ideas so that people keep coming back for more. It's why places like McDonald's don't change their fry recipe, because people are used to that flavor. They want to keep going back to it. If they wanted something else, they would go somewhere else. If they change up their formula, people won't go back to their restaurant. And reality TV is exactly the same. Hi, hello, my name is Jer, and today we are talking about a Drag Race character archetype called the villain, or as I like to call it on this channel, the agitator. This is an important Drag Race trope that has existed since season 1. And the villain trope is not something that is new to reality TV. As a matter of fact, you can see this going all the way back to old reality TV, back in the days of Survivor or Flavor of Love. Queens of entertainment like Tiffany New York Pollard have paved a path for what the villain role looks like, to the point where we have the show, The House of Villains, where characters from reality TV come in and prove that they are the ultimate meanie across TV. The other day I made a video talking about an episode of Drag Race where I spoke about the agitator role and how that is affecting the current season 17 cast. So let's dive into what the agitator role is on Drag Race. The villain role is something that we have seen every single season, and we can look back all the way to people like Rebecca Glasscock in season 1, who had such a problem during the filming of the finale that she was getting BB and Nina completely worked up while recording the music video and was getting herself worked up. That villain role is something that Drag Race relies on every single season. Queens like Shangela in season 3 worked really hard to lean into the villain role, specifically sabotaging people or trying to during the comedy roast challenge, or trying to move things around during the singing challenge. Shangela was always causing fights in the workroom and in Untucked, spawning the I don't have a sugar daddy storyline that happened in episode 3. Shangela leaned into that villain role, and sometimes in reality TV, that role is birthed because someone is just so good at doing it, like how Shangela was. See Jermeeth playing Fifi O'Hara in season 4, where Jermeeth wasn't really getting a lot of TV time until she started just hammering in on Sharon to create moments. That solidified a role for her that the TV was able to latch onto. Because at the end of the day, there are tons of cameras watching your every move, analyzing every second of what you do to decide how you're gonna be portrayed on camera. Some queens, specifically Ginger Minj, are painted as the villain, but are not trying to be that. They're just naturally talking and speaking and doing what they do, and the camera takes an element of what they say, they add a shady sound effect, a cut to someone else, a confessional from someone feeling hurt, and they zoom in on this moment that wasn't a big deal, highlight that from the day, and put that in the final product as this is the villain in the room. I personally like to avoid the word villain because I don't think that anyone is maliciously walking around the workroom with a tri-tipped pitchfork, cackling as horns are going out of their head, figuring out ways to sabotage the competition. Now, there have definitely been queens like Eureka or Roxy or Jeremy who were trying really hard to be a agitator in the room. They were acting actively working on sabotaging others. Look at Roxy trying to get in Jinx's head all the time. Even in the finale saying, my favorite part of the competition was when you were in the bottom. Someone like Jeremy shouting endlessly at Willem and Sharon to continue to create moments. Eureka purposefully bullying and getting in the Vixen's head in order to make things happen in the room. But then there are others like Ginger Minge and Derek Barry who were just naturally being themselves, but were receiving a villain role because of what they were giving to the camera, so the edit could support them being the villain. But I don't see it as outright villainy for most of these contestants. I see it as accidental agitation. People do that naturally in real life. We all have our friends who, when you're with them, they're stirring up drama, they're talking about other people, they're getting fights happening, but they're not trying to, because when you call them out on it, they are shocked and confused how someone could have taken their words as trying to make other people upset. Someone like Derek Barry, who was just getting naturally frustrated in the workroom with people like Bob or Chi-Chi, weren't trying to intentionally make them upset. They were just thinking they were being silly and being shady, and they thought they were giving valid criticism at times where it was given. But at the end of the day, their actions were perceived as agitation. Bob was getting activated because Derek was hounding in on her and not letting her breathe, putting her foot on her neck all the time. People like Ginger were calling out actions of Violet and Pearl, even Fame, because she was getting frustrated that the pageantry of the competition was not as sacred as she found it, and they weren't taking it as seriously as she and Kennedy were. Their actions were not necessarily villainous, but they were getting the younger queens in the room activated and agitated through their comments that were made out of genuine older drag to younger drag bridging. That may have been one of the last seasons where we saw that type of relationship occur, because we also saw that happen with Bianca and her relationship with most of the workroom, specifically with Trinity. People don't often think of Bianca as an agitator or as a villain, but you look back at all those untucks, and she was starting a lot of the friction in the workroom with people like Trinity, calling out people like Adore, who managed to hear and listen and grow, where Trinity was just getting offended and upset by it and was retreating into herself, causing Bianca to get more activated, causing Trinity to get more activated, and their story was able to blossom into something really fascinating for TV, where through Bianca's actions and Trinity's sensitivity, they were able to find each other and meet in the middle during the makeup challenge. Trinity was able to come out of her shell, learn how to blossom on the show, and that created some sympathy for Bianca, where she turned from a villain role to a kind of softy villain role. Someone that you want to root for, and so she becomes an even stronger frontrunner because she's got multiple types of television archetypes behind her. And that's really what it all boils down to with the villain role, with the agitator role, that you are creating accidentally or intentionally a role that the TV can use for you. Because the idea in reality TV is longevity. Even if you're not in a competition setting, you want to be on as long as possible. And when you are acting a certain way on TV, they're going to use, again, every action to create a story for you. Because the audience needs something to chew on. The audience needs that French fry recipe, and it needs to be undisturbed. So how Drag Race formats their show is underdog, frontrunner, villain. Sometimes they will include a quirky girl, someone who's kind of silly, haha, hee hee, or someone who's a little more to the left of what they would normally expect from Drag Race. Think of someone like Sasha Velour being the quirky girl, maybe the first of her archetype. And so they follow that through the rest of the franchise. The underdog is always there. Look at people like Chi-Chi DeVayne. Jinx Monsoon is a fantastic underdog role. Adore Delano. You've got the obvious frontrunners, people like Bianca, Alaska, Violet, and Bob. But then you have the major villain archetypes, the agitator, the instigator in the workroom. And whether that was purposeful or accidental, their actions were perceived on the show as being a certain way, so the story editors could create a situation for them that we as the audience can receive in a package, digest, and be able to regurgitate back out and keep coming back for more. We want, as an audience, to have a sense of structure, so the show needs to retain each one of these roles. By calling out a set of behaviors, by saying this person is agitating the workroom, this person is creating friction. It's not victim blaming, as this silly comment said. It's calling out behavior that's happening on TV. And it's truly essential for the reality TV brand. Look at situations specifically like Jeremy playing Fifi O'Hara, where Jeremy was going in and yelling at characters like Sharon and Willem, causing other people in the room like Latrice and Chad to start to get a little prickly, as well as trying to figure out how to navigate Sharon and Willem. They wonder, is Jeremy the problem or are these two the problem? And we see their relationship dynamics start to shuffle and shift as the rest of the season goes on. We see that happen with Relaska Talks versus Jinx. Characters like Ivy Winters band behind Jinx in order to support her. Characters like Coco join the Team Relaska Talks side. Characters like Alyssa don't really know where to go, so they float between both. But either way, these characters that were not involved in the initial explosion find their way into different camps or float between them, thus creating great reality TV. In this current season of Drag Race, in season 17, we've got a couple different characters that have arisen as agitators in the workroom. Hormona was getting people activated with her attitude about being selected by RuPaul, making Corey upset, who then got others in the room upset. Joella was activating people and getting them upset. Anya has done the same thing, as well as Susie. The show is not a stranger towards having multiple agitators. Look back to season 6, where we've got Laganja getting people upset. We've got people like Courtney getting people upset, Darian and Bianca. The show bounces around between these roles until it lands on someone who it can stick and their narrative can stay till the very end of the season. In season 6, it bounced between Laganja, Bianca, Courtney, and then finally landed on Darian, who became the season's designated villain agitator role. She was there to really drive in that Dela shouldn't be there, that she wasn't doing a good job. She had hounded Milk a few times, was getting a little bit on Adora and Jocelyn. But it took a while for the show to figure out that's who they wanted to stick with in the villain role. The same thing happened in season 8, where Betty was definitely the agitator for a while, and then it shifted over to Derek Barry, and remained there until she went home. This is not victim blaming behavior, this is calling out what is happening on reality TV that's not actually reality, because the edit can support whatever it needs to. If someone is acting messy in the workroom, the show can take that messy situation and make it a much bigger deal, giving it the sole focus of the edit for that episode, and then making us as the audience talk about that, as if that were the only thing that happened. But there's another 47 hours of day that we did not perceive, that were experienced and possibly documented. But we only see that one small moment, creating a story, supporting a narrative.
Bro, that's not gonna be my narrative.
That agitator role, again, is so crucial and so important to reality TV. And it's okay to comment on these things and to call them out. It's so that we can pull back the curtain and see that the wizard is just some dude. It's not this big face. The purpose of this channel and what I do is to pull back that curtain. And some people are really good at being able to see that, and some people take a approach that somebody's being attacked and that someone is being victim blamed and that someone is getting shit talked about, when that's not actually reality. Feelings are not fact. Reality TV is not reality. And we need to be able to look at these things and look at these tropes that are happening on TV so that we can understand what the editors and the producers are trying to tell us, and be able to discern for ourselves with our God-given free-thinking brain what is actually happening. These people aren't bad people. They're not villains. They're not intentionally being mean or messy, but they're being showcased as that, and holding space for them to be the characters that they are on TV, that they were deemed necessary for the further production of the show. Because again, the audience needs it. If the audience didn't need those roles to be here, the show wouldn't create these tropes. They would allow reality TV to exist as it does. They would allow these moments to play out naturally. But instead, they do quick clickbait grabs and give us moments. And that is the RuPaul's Drag Race agitator role, something that they will continue to lean in on probably until the show is gone. So for now, I will see y'all on the flip.